We're recording everywhere.
Is that what we're doing? I hope so.
I think so.
Well, welcome to A Lot About Little. Hello.
Episode 15.
Episode number 15. 1 plus 5 equals
that?
6. I mean, we're really stepping up in the world. I don't know
what the 1 plus 5 had to do with anything, but sure.
Yeah, no, it really didn't have
dude.
to do with anything. But you know, we as we've well established on this show before, I love math.
You suck at math.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
So, but anyway,
I'm not going to beat around the bush on that one.
welcome to A Lot About a Little, episode number 15. If you listened to our episode last week, episode number 14, where we talked about a whole bunch of stuff. One of the things we talked about was what we're going to talk about this week.
Remember what we talked about?
No, I do. I 100% do. But this week,
what did we talk about?
Well, I know this week we are talking about burnout.
Burnout.
We're talking about burnout. And that was something we kind of started a little bit getting into last week.
Yep.
But maybe you want to start it off. I mean, you've been in your career. I mean, you've had a full-time job a lot longer than I have. I mean, I feel like we should just jump right into it here because there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
But how have you? I mean, have you experienced any sort of burnout at all?
Yeah. Well, I find it very hard to get.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I find it very hard to get burnout because my car is 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive.
Okay, that is thumbs down.
The joke was a lot better off air when I said it before.
Yeah, no, I was expecting that Doppler effect reference there, but you know
that. Yeah, sorry. It landed a lot better off air. If only we were recording then.
I know.
But no, like I've definitely experienced burnout. You know, I feel like after such a long season, like minor league baseball or just baseball in general, that goes for 6 months, it's like natural to feel burnt out, you know, because you have just been going for the last 6 months, you know, and time before that, you know.
Yeah.
And I feel like for me, I definitely didn't get, I don't know, I didn't have as much after this season as I did after last season. I think after last season, like being my first full one, it was a little bit different. And this year I was just a little bit more, I don't know, accustomed to it or used to it, you know?
Yeah.
So I didn't have as much, but there definitely was like a time after the season where like the last thing I want to do is open Photoshop and need to make a graphic, you know?
Right.
Because I had been doing that every day for the last 6 months. And that's even, you know, as a team, we do a really good job of, you know, giving people off days when they need to recharge, you know, and make sure that everyone's staying energized throughout a long season. And there's still some burnout that's just unavoidable because of the schedule, even with those off days. I mean, those are fantastic to recharge, and like we'll do late reports if need be on the weekends and stuff like that. But I feel like burnout's still, you know, a little bit inevitable just with the amount of work that you do in a setting like that.
Yeah. I mean, do you find yourself getting to a point where you're just like, I mean, because we do this outside of work too. You know, we're doing stuff for this show, or we're, you know, doing our own personal projects. Are you getting to a point where you don't have a drive to do that when you get home? Or, I mean, do you still have that real passionate?
It kind of depends. I mean, there are some days where, you know, I'll come home and I don't want to do any creative stuff. You know, I very much try to separate my work from my not work time best I can.
Yeah.
As difficult as it is.
Right now.
And I try not to bring like work home a lot if I don't absolutely need to.
Right.
But there's definitely some days where like I'll be working on a project that I'm really into and I'll take it home and keep working on it because I just like it that much, you know, and I'm just that invested into it.
Yeah.
And there's other days where it's like I have worked for this worked on this project, you know, all 8 hours today. The last thing I want to do when I get home is keep working on that project, you know.
I think that's something very specific to like our field is like I mean, you have to love what you're doing. I mean, my parents both have jobs. I mean, this what we are doing is a career. This is what we love to do. I mean, neither of them, went to school and are doing what they went to school for. My dad, I mean, he didn't go to college, but he got a job right away. And he likes it, but it's not something that he like thinks about when he goes home. Whereas, we're always continuing to do those things and do it at home. And
yeah,
that's actually, I mean, that almost makes it feel like not work then. I mean, that's kind of what I've experienced a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I go to work and it's not like work because it's stuff that I like to do so much. I like what I'm doing. I like making videos. It's like a hobby. But I haven't been doing it for that long, you know what I mean? And it's like, okay, at some point, I mean, even now, I mean, once in a while I'll get to the point where I'm like, this day is dragging. This day,
You're
I'm
like
ready.
Slowly exiting the honeymoon period, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, and but for the most part, it's still fun, and I still enjoy it. But yeah, it hasn't gotten to the point too much where it's like,
That's
I really don't feel like going home and editing a podcast, or like making a clip or something.
Yeah.
It hasn't gotten to that point for me quite yet.
I think what I found is there are some days where, I can work on something all day at work and then take it home, and keep working on it. And there are also other days where I can work on it during the day, but then when I go home, I realize that I would much rather take a break from it.
Yeah.
And, go back into it the next day fully rested and, with a clear head to work on it again. And I think, going off of that, there's also a big benefit of sleeping on projects.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Like I will not finalize a project of, a larger scale until like if I complete the work on like a Tuesday and it is like at a point of completion, I will not send that off until the following day.
Yeah. No.
Obviously if the deadline allows,
Yeah.
But if I can, I will not send it off until the next day because I guarantee you I'm going to go home that night and I'm going to be in the shower or I'm going to be lying in bed or, doing something and I'm going to get an idea that I want to, go back to the next day and go into it. That's what happened like when I was making the anniversary logo. That's exactly what happened. Like we were at a point where we had like a final logo and I was lying in bed the one night. It was like 10 o'clock or something and I had this idea for it. I'm like, if I don't try this now, I'm never going to try this. So I worked up like until like 12:30 like working on this.
Yeah.
And that ended up making the final design.
Wow.
And I'm like, that was worth it, So sometimes it's like that balance of, really grinding on something and then knowing when to kind of like, I don't want to say take your foot off the gas,
Yeah.
Because you keep going, but just know that kind of balance of, all right, I'm going to really grind this day, and then maybe the next day I'm going to, take a little bit easier, and then I'm going to go back, get recharged for the next day and kind of finding that balance because you can't go 100% every day.
Right.
Or else you're just going to, it's going to be no fun. You're going to get burnt out, incredibly fast.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of, the point that I've been at now. I mean, we talked about it before. With the major at the end of my undergrad, doing all of those things over and over and over, and I mean, literally going at 100%, 200% every day, all day. But in my head, I knew that wasn't a forever workload. You know what I mean?
Correct.
But part of that thought process was, okay, if I work really hard now, if I work long hours, and I still like it. By the time I'm done, then I think I made the right choice, because then going to work, you're there till 5 instead of 7, 8, 9 o'clock, which it was, a lot, because there was stuff going on at night. But having that kind of experience of doing it for hours and hours and hours, doing what you're going to do that whole time, that I think was helpful for me.
I think I agree with that. I mean, like one thing I can think of, like if you like what you do when you're in like the thick of it, like the hardest part of your job, whatever that may be. Like for me, it's always opening day prep. Especially last year, before my first season, there was just so much to do, and we were just going for like a week leading up to it. Like we were there until like 9, 10 at night. I think I was there until like 11 the night before opening night before I left, just getting stuff done. And I think a good sign, like not only is it like a confidence booster that it's like, all right, yeah, I can do this, by getting through that, but it's also like a good indicator to you of being like, yeah, like I actually like this. If I am enjoying what I'm doing, even though, I'm living off of, pizza for this 11 o'clock night, just getting all these things ready for the next day. I think that's a good indicator that I guess like you're ready for what that workload, is, because I mean, creative work and, coming from the sports industry, I think even more so, like it's like not everyone's like cut out for it.
Yeah.
That's just like the fact of the matter. You have to really want it, and you really want to be able to like know how to put in the work to do it.
Yeah.
And that's like a really good indicator when you're in that position where, you're putting in the work, and instead of
So we're back. I don't know what happened there, but
the great mystery of what happened.
I have to monitor that, but what I wanted to ask you was, did you find yourself in a state of burnout more so during the season? I mean, because you have what seems to be I don't want to say drastically different schedule, but it seems that your workload during season play is a lot higher. And so I'm interested to see, how you struggle in season versus out of season.
Sure. I think the balance of the season really helps with it, where we're really fortunate with minor leagues. We play 6-game homestands, so they go Tuesday through Sunday. And generally, you alternate on the road and at home. So we'll be home for 6, away for 6, home for 6, away for 6. So that's a really nice way to balance it, because you work a little bit harder during that 6-game homestand.
Yeah.
And then you hit that off week. You have a little bit of time to recharge, wrap up stuff from the previous homestand, get ready for the next one, and a couple days in between to work on, all the other projects we have. So that's really nice. I think that it gets the worst when we have a couple back-to-back homestands where we have 12 games in 13 days. And those are a lot.
Yeah.
Because that's just a lot of late nights in a row. So that's probably the worst. But we were fortunate enough, I want to say this year we had 2 weeks at home and then 2 weeks away right after. So we had 2 weeks off or 2 weeks with the team on the road to, recharge a little bit more. So that was really nice. And honestly, what we found, which makes no sense, is that the single homestand after the double homestand was worse than the double homestand for some reason.
Oh.
Which made no sense. Like my boss and I and like our press box staff, we got through, the double homestands pretty much fine. For the rest of the front office, I really can't speak to that. Some of them, it's a little bit tougher for sure. But we got to, we got through the double homestand. We had the week where the team was away. And then they come back into town, and we're about halfway through that homestand on the Friday. And I look at my boss, I'm like, does this feel more like a double homestand to you than the double homestand did? He's like, yep. And we had 2 of those this year. So we definitely had that feeling. But yeah, I mean, the schedule really helps in terms of, managing burnout and making sure that it's not, constantly on. You're on for the 6 days, off for the next. So that really helps. I mean, obviously, how other sports do their scheduling, varies. I imagine it's similar with football, with your on days, and then, you have, that whole week to prep for the next game and things like that. So I think the schedule does a good job. I mean, it's definitely more than the off season. Absolutely. Especially, this time of the off season between now and, January, essentially we're kind of in like a very slower period, and like stuff will start to pick up a little bit more in January, but the whole schedule of the season definitely helps.
We're recording again, dude. I don't know what
Oh
Reid,
boy.
I think Reid gave me his like technology issues or something. I don't know what's going on.
What technology issues do I have?
You have all of the issues, and I just hit the auto trans
Oh.
button. We're going all over the place today.
Oh boy.
Anyway, we were talking about Burnout before that.
Yeah.
I mean, for the people in the edit, it will
Before
be
the break. Insert commercial here.
insert commercial here for what was we had a commercial, an impromptu commercial last week. Do you remember what it was for?
Oh, Frost Buddy?
Frost Buddy.
Yeah, they still haven't reached out.
Yeah, Frost Buddy still waiting for that email.
Shocker.
But we're talking about Burnout today here on A Lot About a Little, and Reid
Yeah.
was telling us about his burnout in season play versus out of season.
Yes.
I mean, what do you do to prevent burnout? I guess we'll go there now. I mean, because there's got to be.
What do you do to prevent burnout?
There's got to be some steps you're taking.
Ooh.
You know, whether that be because sometimes I even feel like when I'm just sitting at my desk, you know, and you're working hard. I mean, you're staring at a screen, working on a project for all day, 8 hours. You're like, okay, like I need to, you know, just get up and walk around. But I guess first let's talk about. Maybe let's talk about short-term burnout first, and then maybe we can move into longer-term burnout. You know, where that's a more serious topic. But short-term burnout, day of, what are you doing to help yourself?
I mean, I guess like if you're in that spot where you're staring at a computer screen and you've just hit like a wall, like getting up and moving around is definitely good. You know, there are multiple times where like. You know, my boss and I will be working on something, and we've just hit that wall, and maybe we have another project that's like a stadium signage piece. You know, he'll be like, let's go take a look at, you know, XYZ, you know, and like get them to like get some measurements for this. You know, even if it's not something that we absolutely need to do that day, it gets us out of our chairs for, you know, a half hour, an hour. You know, go down to the front office, see how the rest of the staff is doing. You know, just get out of the office space for a bit. And kind of clear your mind a little bit. I think that really helps. I think, you know, like switching what projects you're working on, you know, as well, if you can. Maybe you jump to an easier project that's going to take you less time. You know, you have something, maybe this is a really big project that you're working on, but you got a couple other smaller projects you can hop onto, get something complete, which I think is really good.
And
like make it feel like you've actually accomplished something. Because I've definitely had the days where you're working on a bigger project that you work on all day, and it goes from in progress to still in progress by the end of the day, and like in your mind, you knew that you obviously did work that day, but it just doesn't feel like you did that much because like you don't have that final project to show for it, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that helps as well. And I guess for like long-term stuff, like one thing that has helped me is just having hobbies and stuff outside of work. You know, like if I had a rough day at work, you know, I'll go for a bike ride, or, you know, like if I have a hockey game that night, you know, I'll do something to clear my mind. And like, I don't know, for me, like exercise helps. It may be different for, you know, other people, but I guess finding that stuff outside of work that isn't just your work outside of work, you know, which is very difficult as a creative to do for some people.
Yeah.
I think that's like a big thing as well.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like, again, because I have been at my job for so little time, I'm still trying to figure out what helps me get through it. I mean, obviously during the day, you know, so a lot of times I'll just get up and, you know, even just walk to the bathroom and just like, you know, I try to at least get up once an hour, you know, and go just to like get up, stretch out the legs a little bit, kind of reset the eyes too. Cause I mean, I'm sitting in a dark office and you know, that is difficult and it's hard on the eyes sometimes. And so I want to go stretch the legs out, maybe see someone, talk to them for a minute. You know,
see some sunlight.
Well, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'll do that,
I mean,
you know.
You also, you know, you're in a good spot. You have the benefit of, you know, working on a college campus as well, you know. So if you need to step outside and take a walk, you know, you're able to, you know, which is really good.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't necessarily, I mean, I'm not going for walks, just, you know, all the time, but the bathroom is across the hall. And so it's even something as short as that I think really helps, you know, with just your mindset and is like, all right, you know, this is, if we can relax a little bit here for a second and get away from the project, whatever it is. And it also just helps creatively because you can then reset your vision maybe a little bit. You get too locked into what you're doing, and it goes back to what you said is sleep. When you're sleeping on something, you're stepping away from it for a little bit, and then you go back to it and you're like, man, what was I thinking?
Yes, yeah. Yeah. I've definitely had that before where I'll work on something, take some time off, I'll come back to it, and like I'll completely scrap some idea I had. So I'm like, there is a much easier way or a much better way to do this. And you kind of look back and you're like, yeah, like I have no idea what the thought process was there. And if I would have just done this from the start, I would have saved myself probably a lot of time and it would have gotten the same result,
Yeah. So I think that that's helpful in that sense. In terms of like long-term goals, or not long-term goals, but long-term burnout prevention, I guess we'll call it. You talked a little bit about it, hobbies outside of work.
That's the big one for me.
A lot of, again, I think a lot of it comes down to I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing here,
Yeah.
This is a hobby, but again, this is something. This is very similar. Making this is very similar to what I do at work, and so that's where it can get a little tricky with like burnout because it's like you're doing this all day and then you're going home and doing it as a hobby. So, but I enjoy skating. I'm hoping to start roughing again. I've been roughing this is my 10th year roughing.
Wow.
And it's been a long road with that, but the last year and there's been a couple years where it's like I have no time to do it, because I'm just so busy on the weekends, and it's like the days you aren't busy, it's like, do you want to spend it essentially working and getting yelled at as a referee because that's what you do as a referee is just basically get yelled at all day. But it's tough. Burnout is tough.
It is.
I look at my parents who have been doing this, working there for 25, 30 years coming up. Mm-hmm. It's like, man, that's longer than my whole life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like my grandfather. He taught for 50 years. And continued to do it. Right until the end. And it's like, how do you? You obviously have to love what you're doing, to do it that long. I don't know.
I think a big thing for the creative industry, obviously you see, some burnout in it, but, a great thing about my job is that every day I go in, I'm doing something different.
Right.
I don't work a office job where I get in at 9, I check my email, I type on a spreadsheet all day, I print something off, I go to a meeting, I go home, and I repeat it all the next day.
Hey, those trips to the printer though, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
You're going to the printer.
Is true.
You're going to the printer. I have to flip the water container, dude. We have some water cooler chat. That's a big responsibility.
There you go.
Other duties as assigned. Thank you very much. Anyway.
Yeah, but like I get to go there, and like one day I'll be doing graphics, and the next day I'll be doing video, and it's always a different project, And I think that really helps to, I don't know if keep yourself sane is the right way to put it, but just keep yourself recharged and like refreshed, and it's good to have that balance and just that balance of that, but also the balance of knowing when to, go hard and really, dive deep into a project, and knowing when to, kind of let off a little bit and be like, all right, I need some time to, recharge, because that can be difficult to find as well when you're so deep into a project. But I think can be so beneficial, even if you're in the middle of a big project, just take a day off from it, or an afternoon off from it, and just take that time to work on something else and just get away from that, which can be huge.
Yeah, and like, do something fun, like listen to the A Lot About a Little podcast. Doesn't that sound like a fun time? Go.
Look at that, yeah. We'll have 15 episodes now that you can listen through,
That's almost 2 full work days. Well,
if they're all a half hour, that's 7.5 hours.
Yeah, again, my
That's
math skills here.
That's
not
a
doing
full
too well.
work day if you take a half-hour lunch. You know?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
If you take an hour lunch, you can have a half-hour episode that you can save for your commute.
There you go. I like that.
Boom.
I like
Boom.
that a lot. Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's burnout is something that we deal with on a daily basis, and it's good to have that managed well. I mean, because we want to be in this field for a long, long time. We don't want to be all of a sudden stuck working at an Arby's or something. I don't know why we would be working at Arby's, but
yeah. Hopefully not.
we want to be enjoying ourselves and enjoying our careers, because a wise man once said, if you enjoy what you do, you never work a day in your life. So
Absolutely.
if we can all live up to that, I think we'll all have some pretty happy lives. You know what I mean?
We'll be in good shape. Absolutely.
All right. Well, last week we had a little bit of a question of the week on episode number 14. What advice would you give your younger self? We had an answer. Oh, my
We had an
goodness.
answer.
Oh, my goodness. We had an answer.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, this answer says, my coach always said, you are capable of more than you think. I tend to reflect back often and realize that I am capable of more than I thought. That is very inspirational on this gloomy Monday. It's not really gloomy, and it's also not Monday when you're listening to it. Well, it might be, but it comes out on Friday. We're recording on a Monday, so I don't really know what's going on.
What should our question be this week?
I think our question should be, how do you prevent burnout from happening to yourself?
Asking for a friend. No.
Asking for a friend. No. How do you personally prevent burnout? I think it is a good, mantra. Not mantra. That's not the right word. Mantra.
Mantra.
Good,
Question.
Sure. We'll go
Let's call
with
it
that.
what it is.
We'll go with that. Good question to ask. I think it can help out a little bit. But, yeah. So you have been listening to the A Lot About a Little podcast. This one might be a little bit shorter, but that's all right.
I'm looking at my timer in Audition, and it says 36 minutes, but I realistically have no idea how much usable audio we have in this.
Yeah,
we'll
no
find
idea.
out.
Well, whatever it was, this has been episode number 15. We are available on social media, a couple different platforms, Reid.
Instagram and TikTok at A Lot About a Little Pod.
Instagram and TikTok at A Lot About a Little Pod. YouTube.
And YouTube. I mean, if you're watching this, you're there.
If you're watching it, you're there. But let's throw that in for the audio, just in case.
Is it just a lot about a little?
Oh, my God. You're supposed to
I
know
can't
this.
remember.
You have one job, Reid. You have one job.
You usually plug the YouTube.
Oh, God. It's just a lot about a little. You can find it in our Instagram bio and our TikTok bio and our Spotify
description. If you're listening.
You can find it anywhere. You could just see
if
my
you see the
beautiful
full
face.
Uncut version. This one will probably have cuts in it because we may have a break in the video recording.
Shh, nobody needs to know.
You can see the mostly uncut version of this episode on YouTube.
Yeah, so we got shorts everywhere. I mean, we got tons of fun clips happening. It's a fun time. We
a couple pants as well.
What?
You said we have shorts everywhere.
Okay. Okay.
I had to throw in a Logan dad joke.
Oh, wow. Yeah. No.
I couldn't not.
I do appreciate that. I'm a big dad
I really
joke fan.
I feel like I had to redeem myself with the burnout joke earlier.
Yeah, you did, and I appreciate that. And I also you made another car reference that I can't remember now. You run out of gas or keep your foot on the gas.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when you're doing burnouts, you need your foot on the gas. So
that wasn't intentional, but I'll pretend it was.
Yeah. Well, All right. Well, thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.
See ya.